Hi everyone, my name is Navita and I'm going to be your instructor today. And we are going to talk about race relations in Canada 2019. It's based off of a survey as well as an article. So what I did for you is I created a slideshow just because it was a fairly intensive survey. I thought that it would be better just to compile all the information onto a slideshow that you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just briefly go through the main important points on here. In that way that you have it to write your reflection and to ponder on some key points. So let's get started. What is the CRRF? They are the Canadian Race Relation Foundation, and they're basically Canada's leading organization. They are dedicated to eliminating racism and they promote harmonious race relations in Canada. In this article, the stats that is covered, it's covered by a group called the Airvaronics Institute for Survey Research, and they're a team that provides relevant and original public opinion and social research related issues to public policies and social change. Now, before we get into the stats and the survey, we're just going to do a breakdown. We as Canadians, we think of ourselves as a racially diverse society on the planet, and we are more so getting there over time. However, before that, we did have breakthroughs, but together we've thrived to be on the rise for a better country and to come together compared to other countries to be a country of multicultural diversity and defining a symbol of national identity. So with that said, at the same time, racism and discrimination remain an underlying reality in Canada. So that is what's going to be discussed in this slideshow. Some see an uplifting story and dramatic changes from previous generations to now, expanding inclusion of Canadians, and others see the other side. So this racial relations can be in a form of through employment, equity policies, establishment of anti-racism offices in governments. It can also be a personal experience, media reporting, or political agendas. What we need to do is we need to understand, have a better understanding of this, and we need it to be measurable where we can see a brighter future for this. So this is where we were at. This is where we still at. This is just a little something for you to think about. So keywords and definitions to sink in and to understand and to be familiar with are systematic discrimination, race, racism, discrimination, visible minority, and systemic racism. These are some really serious words to keep in mind, but at the same time, I mean, it exists all around us. And as educators and new beginners going into education, we need to embrace this, and we need to think about being more diverse and trying to develop an environment where hopefully this doesn't happen or we don't experience any type of this with our students or ourselves. So let's get to the survey. So the group, the Airvaronics Institute of Survey Research, and the Canadian Race Relation Foundation work together to release the Race Relations in Canada 2019 survey. It's a new national survey of Canadians that is the first time of its kind to cover race relations across the country. This study confirms the reality of racism in Canada, Also important, it shows that this reality is widely, if not universally, acknowledged. Many Canadians across different racial backgrounds report experiences of racism and discrimination due to race, and also recognize that it also affects others of their own race and from other racial groups. So the research consisted of a survey conducted online between April 17 and May 6 of 2019, and it's compiled of 3,111 Canadian ages 18 and over, and they grouped them in 4 groups based off of age, gender, and gender as well. So Chinese, Black, South Asian, or Indigenous. What do Canadians think about race relations in Canada? The reality of racism in Canada notwithstanding, Canadians believe that different racial groups generally get along with one another and more likely to be optimistic than pessimistic about achieving racial equality of their lifetime. So based off of that, according to the data, 81% of Canadians say that race relations in their own community are generally good in terms of how well people from different races get along with one another. And it shows 84 was white, 83 Chinese, 83 South Asian, 81 Chinese, and 77 Black, and 69 Indigenous. And then 14%, or somewhat, 46, optimistic that all racialized people in Canada will be treated with the same respect, versus 26% who are pessimistic. So what does the study confirm? This study confirms the reality of racism in Canada. Also important, it shows that the reality is widely, if not universally acknowledged. Many Canadians across different racial backgrounds report experiences of racism and discrimination due to race, and also recognize that it also affects others of their own race and from other racial groups. So based off of that, majorities of Black Canadians, which is 54%, and Indigenous at 53%, have personally experienced discrimination due to race, ethnicity from time to time, if not regularly. Such experience is also evident but less widely reported from South Asians, Chinese, and other groups. Only 12% at white. So most Canadians also acknowledged and realized experiences of discrimination either often or at least occasionally. Specifically, Canadians are most likely to believe that 77% of Indigenous, 73% of Black, South Asians experience discrimination often or occasionally in comparison to 54% of Chinese in Canada, and 5% say that racialized Canadians never experience discrimination. So to conclude, the Canadian Relations Survey establishes new benchmark. It indicates race relations across Canada from perspective of its citizens, and it provides foundation of monitoring progress over time. That's what the survey basically includes and what it covers. The themes covered in the research include race relations in Canada, attitudes towards specific racial groups, perceptions of racial discrimination in Canada, and generally one's own racial group and personal experience. This data serves measurable progress that will educate to develop better understanding of race relations in Canada. So before we get into the key questions, which is for you guys to ponder over or to add on to your reflection, I think the survey is fantastic. I think they did a really good job to try to get as much information and data as possible to have an understanding as what each race thinks about racism and discrimination. And it also gives us an overall perspective on where we're going and the fact that it's still around us and is going to continue to be around us. It's a matter of taking that information that we've seen and given and utilizing it and developing understanding of it, especially as teachers, like for me, looking at that, knowing that I might come across one of that maybe one day, and seeing that majority are Black and Indigenous that are mostly affected in comparison to South Asians, Chinese, and white. I would try to be more diverse and educate myself and give myself a little bit more understanding to create an environment where it's inclusive and no one should feel discriminated, and they should be able to feel safe and secure and feel free to be their own person. So based off of this survey, really great data, and I mean, we can't change the discrimination overnight. I'm really happy to say that Canada, living in Canada, the fact that we are so multiculturalized, and especially now, we care so much about our locals, and we care so much about our community and our children, and even in high schools, we not like from the O Canada to adding Indigenous education to now acknowledging different cultures and religions. That's awesome, and that's where we need to go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I mean, I did review it a little bit, but I'm going to leave you with the slideshow so that you guys can look over to do your reflection on. Alrighty, thank you.